What got me into it, I guess, was my brother teaching me how to play 3 or 4 songs on the guitar. And then 6 months later, the Dillards, seeing them at the Tustin Paradox Club, it was called. And that just took me off. I came home and I took the 5th string off my guitar and put a nail in at the 5th fret to make it short. And because I wanted a short string, but then I didn't know how to tune it, and I had to go back and ask them the next night. I ended up watching the Dillards an average of 2 to 3 nights a week for about 2 years, and Rodney Dillard's become a really good friend over the years. And in fact, I made a documentary on the Dillards called A Night in the Ozarks. It's just been released recently. Captures with 4 cameras, shot with live sound, them playing in a farmhouse in Missouri. And as I listened to them and listened to the radio and the Dirt Band came along, I wanted to be able to get an instrument like the banjo on the radio. Boy, there's a challenge. Because I was going to college just before the Dirt Band, my last year of college, which was right after my first year. And a song came on the radio. Oh, that one. It was the Byrds doing Tambourine Man, and I knew Chris Hillman was a mandolin player from a bluegrass band in San Diego, and he's on the radio. Well, if he can get on the radio, so can a banjo player. I didn't play the banjo yet. I mean, I didn't play the mandolin yet, and or the fiddle. I was just living in Orange County being a banjo player, kind of like growing up behind the orange curtain. And I'll never forget, as I got to playing, I went and did a session. I started playing. And I was told I was pretty good, but there weren't very many people to compare to. He's the best banjo player in the band. Well, he's the only one. Okay. I did a session for, it was Rocky Raccoon was a session, and it was Richie Havens, my first recording session. I'm back there playing banjo behind Richie Havens. And then I did one for Mike Post doing Louisiana Man. I never knew then what a Doug Kershaw was, but Doug became a friend over the years. Basically, what I wanted to do was get the banjo and then the mandolin on the radio and then make some old records. That's what we're all trying to do, is just make old records. Hey, I remember this one. Remember this one? That kind of thing. Maybe Carolina and the Pines is one of those. That Michael Murphy song. It's got I played the banjo on. And the Dirt Band's Bojangles, though, was a very proud achievement. I don't know, though. It's like it was the 3rd song I learned on the mandolin. I've never let that cat out of the bag. But fortunately, I got through it. And I didn't know the dog died for about 5 years. I thought his dog's name was Up and Died. His dog, Up and Died. Here, Up and Died. Here, boy. I found that I listened to the sounds of the chords and the way the lyrics affect the words, the way the lyrics affect the melody and the chord changes. And I like to play behind those. And that became my next love of backing up people that were singing, trying to find musical sounds. Not necessarily hot licks, but just sounds that would fit. And that led me to film scoring, which is one of my current pursuits besides playing solo. I'd like to invite you to check out my website. My mother thought of the website name. It's John McEuen, and pretty clever for her. I added .com. But it's got some of these stories and stories about some of the film scores that I've worked on, and I'm still in pursuit of them. So if you've got one, let me know. So the pursuit was basically get out there, meet people, see the world. Played over 6,000 shows, flown 3 million miles. I'm not sure I'm proud of that. It's a pretty stupid way to go to work. Oh, I got a job. It's 8,000 miles away, and they're going to hire me for 1 hour. Oh, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But it makes a few dollars. And been playing over the years with some interesting people. I'll never forget some of them. Like, who was that I was trying to think of? Like Bill Wyman, being called into a Bill Wyman session by my friend Leon Russell. and having to play a classical banjo tune for the first time. John, this is Bill Wyman. Play that Opus 36 for him. Oh, well, okay. And it's a good run so far. I'm just getting started. I'd say some of my favorite musicians that I've encountered over the years are often people that play the lyrics equally well, and Willie Nelson is hard to beat. He's one of the best. He's the best guitar player to play behind Willie Nelson music, I think. But almost anybody. He's such a great player. I love people like David Grisman and wish I had the hands ability that Bela Fleck has. But I like what I do. But the musicians I like are people like Byron Berline on fiddle, and Vassar was a great inspiration both as a person and a musician. Vassar Clements never had a bad word for anyone, or a bad word. He'd say "dad bime," B-I-M-E, and I'm looking for somebody else that knows that word, and I haven't found him yet. And it works for anything. That dad bime fiddle's out of tune. Oh, that dad bime flight is late. And Vassar wants some pie? Dad bime. Works anywhere. Earl Scruggs, Maybelle Carter was great to know. I feel proud that I was able to give Maybelle her first gold record. Marty Stewart, I called him up and said, I don't want to go alone. The Dirt Band's Circle Be Unbroken album, well, somebody had to give it to her, so I took it out to her. This is Maybelle Carter. And she didn't know what she did in a good way. Maybelle, here's a gold record that's 500,000 people bought this album. Well, I didn't know that many people even heard those old songs. Would you like some lemonade? Come on in, boy, sit down. You know, she was just an angel. The album did well over a million units later on. But working with Johnny Cash was really fun, but being around him was even more fun, seeing a couple of people that were living their life the way they did. Generally, it's the ones that are strange are the times that one didn't go up to somebody and say, "You're an idiot," or "You're wrong." And what I mean by that is I'm proud of playing on the Marshall Tucker's Long Hard Ride album, and it won a Grammy, and I played mandolin and banjo on it, and it was a lot of fun. I wish I'd had the nerve to tell a bunch of guys that I ran into there that they shouldn't be doing cocaine, and it ruined their lives. It was basically the people that you run into that leave strange impressions, you know. They sometimes leave an impression like that, and you wish you would have said something, but it wasn't my place. He sure could play the heck out of that guitar, though. Dolly Parton. Do it the way she does. She's just like what you see, you know. Costs a lot of money to look this cheap. She's Miss Nice Lady, and she works really hard. Great songwriter. Porter Wagner, what a fine guy he is. You know, Porter is just, he could be up for 35 hours and head into his bus, and he said, "Porter, would you take a picture with me?" "Oh, sure. Where are they? Right here. Let me sign that for you." This guy doesn't need that, but he needs them. The first time we went to Denver, well, in the first 10 years of the Dirt Band, I was also road managing. I hadn't learned the word delegate yet. And we had one roadie, and I would drive the equipment and meet the band in the town at the airport. And that was good. I liked the experience. But here I am in a Ryder truck with my roadie, 17-foot, 18-foot Ryder, box truck. And we had to get from New Jersey to Denver. We had 2 days to do it. 2.5 actually, but I knew we could do it in 42 hours. And but around hour 9, I'd picked up a hitchhiker and put Gary in back because he needed to sleep. And I'm going down the road, and talking to the hitchhiker. I look at the temperature gauge, and gee, there should be a needle there somewhere. And I look, oh, there's the needle. It's way down past that H. Well, maybe I'd better pull over. I pull over in a rest area, and sure enough, steam is pouring out from under the hood of this truck. I let the steam clear, I raised the hood, and I realized, well, there's some big metal thing in here with a bunch of belts on it had broken off. Hey, please, I'm 20 1 or 2 years old, all right? Fresh out of Orange County and still... So I take that big metal thing, which I later find out is the alternator, and I put it back where I could see that it had broken from a mount, and I got a bunch of coat hangers and tied it in together and mounted it up, ready to go. Everything's in position. Maybe I'd better get some advice. Oh, there's a trucker over there. Keep in mind, it's 1970, okay? And I go over to this trucker, one of those guys with a short white T-shirt with the cigarettes, Camels, of course, rolled up in his sleeve, cowboy boots. His hair's really long, about like that. Pardon me, sir, but and my hair was long then. Really long and dark. It's still black inside. And would you come over here and look at this? I had a difficulty with my traveling vehicle here, and I wanted to see if I fixed it. And he comes over. He doesn't say a word. He's looking at me like I should be dead, is basically it. And he looks in under the hood. He looks at me. He looks under the hood. He looks at me, and he goes, shit, and walks back to his truck. And I'm going, so I guess that means everything's okay. Yeah, So I go, oh, well, it's probably not a good sign. I go ahead and start the truck. That whole thing just rips apart. The alternator flies out. The coat hangers are everywhere. I had no idea what torque was then. And other than Peter and the Monkees, I met him when he was washing dishes. And, okay, I got the truck changed over to a new truck. I got 1,000 miles credit. It took only an hour and 40 minutes for the turnaround. I woke the roadie up and back. I cashed a check with a hitchhiker because I was running out of money. And going down the road, I said to Gary, the roadie, I said, well, at least the mirrors are good. And right then, the driver's mirror falls off. And he opens up his window. Well, this one looks, it falls off. So we're going into Kansas City with no money and no mirrors, but I paid $75 on the check with a hitchhiker. And we finally made it to Denver. Well, here I am after, 40 plus years. The Dirt Band's been together for over 40 years. What a shock is that. I've been playing a few years before that, but I remember when I was starting to learn how to play, how difficult it was. Oh, a book. You can't get a lot out of a book. The sound, you can get some ideas. Oh, then along comes some videotapes. Oh, the best place to learn was seeing people live, watching them do something over and over. That's how I learned. That's how so many people learn. And now that iVideoTunes has come along, and you can get this stuff, stick it on your computer, and take it with you, and just look at it whenever you want. It's like, oh my gosh, are these people going to be good in a few years? It's a good thing. I would say that with the variety of stuff that's available, you go check it out. It can get you ahead so much further. I mean, I found even with the people that I was fortunate to hang around that I remember when Earl Scruggs first showed, Earl, I'm playing Sally Good, and then I'm moving my fingers around, and I had, Earl, would you play it for me? And he puts his fingers on the neck, and they don't hardly move. Because I says, well, I do it different. He goes, well, I just wouldn't want to jump around that much. You don't get that out of a book sometimes. You don't get that off of a record. And you sometimes don't even get it watching some people play live. So if you go to iVideoTunes and you see people that have helped create some of the music that you've fallen in love with and see how they did it, you'll get to their space faster. Some people say, what are you doing nowadays? I just want to make sure you know that this year the Wild West album came out. It's a soundtrack from a miniseries I scored. Has a lot of great people on it. Also, the Sesame Street DVD. I'm doing Oh Susanna with 50 goats and a cow. That's a lot of fun. The cow is really fun. Let's see, I've got Vanguard albums that might interest you. Check them out on my website. My mother thought of the name, John McEuen. Hey, I've heard that before. Just finished scoring a film called Maynard Dixon, Art and Spirit, about the great American painter, Maynard Dixon. And especially check out the documentary that came out last year. I produced and directed on the Dillards, my true mentors in music and performing life. It's called A Night in the Ozarks on Varice Saraband. Thanks. I get a lot of questions about where did I get this banjo. And very lucky to get it. It was at Gruen Guitars in Nashville. I walked in 75, and there it was hanging on the wall. George, how much is that banjo? Well, the banjo, $1,700. And I said, well, can I give you $1,600? Well, you can give me the $1,600, but I won't give you the banjo. Can I borrow it for a couple hours? Well, okay. So I borrowed it and took it out to Earl Scruggs' house. He wasn't home, but his banjo and his wife Louise were. Louise, would you please sit down and turn your back for a few minutes? I got this banjo I want to buy. And so I took Earl's banjo and I went. Then I took this banjo and went. Which one's Earl's banjo, Louise? I did this like on a bunch of different tunes, like, just very straight. Every time she thought this one was Earl's banjo. And I went, thank you. I went back and wrote a hot check for it, the 1927 Florentine. But that check should be good pretty soon. Togary Mountain. Well, that came about during the Circle Be Unbroken album. And what a dream that was to be a dork from Orange County. I ended up in the studio recording with all my mentors. They didn't know it at the time, but Earl Scruggs, for one. And I'll never forget asking Earl if he'd want to record with a bunch of hippies from California, and he said, I'd be proud to. Jeff was in the back of the car as I'm driving Earl back to the hotel in Boulder, Colorado, and yeah, okay, well, what does that mean? 2 weeks later, I asked Doc Watson the same question, only it was when I asked Earl, would you think maybe would you record with my band? I was a little bit nervous, but then 2 weeks later with Doc, it was more like, Doc, we're making an album with Earl Scruggs. And what happened after he said yes was 7 weeks later, that album was finished. We recorded for 6 days, and on the 7th, we played back. And leading into that, we got into town. First of all, we had to do about 23 dates on the way into Nashville. We got into town the week before, and I stayed at Earl's house, and I'll never forget that one morning where I heard... Now keep in mind, I'm sleeping in Earl Scruggs' house in one of the kids' bedrooms, in Gary's bedroom, and that's the bugle call rag, which I'd learned many years earlier. And I hear it. I'm coming out of my dream, and I hear Earl go, John, we got some eggs ready for you if you want to get up. And I say, oh, okay, I'll get up. And the story I heard is for many years, when the boys, Gary and Randy, were growing up, Earl and his dad, Earl and his cohort, Lester Flatt, would be doing those TV shows. And quite often they'd play Randy Lynn Rag on one of those shows. Well, Randy Scruggs, was Randy Lynn Scruggs. Earl named a song after him. And it was a lightning fast banjo tune. In fact, it was Randy Lynn Rag that Earl told me when he came to see the Dirt Band the first time at Vanderbilt University, and I said, I hadn't met him before that he knew of. Mr. Scruggs, why did you come see us tonight? And he said, I wanted to meet the boy that played Randy Lynn Rag the way I intended to. I've never forgotten that. And I say that with pride. I don't say that with arrogance, because I didn't even play it the way I intended to, but he liked it. He liked it enough to come see us. So here I am, 2 years later at his house, and hearing the story that Randy Lynn had a song named after him. And Gary would always get up and leave the room whenever they did that on TV. Daddy never wrote a song for me. I said, Gary, I'll take care of that. So we're up to doing this album. And I said, the name of this song is Togary Mountain. I had to put mountain in there because it had to sound kind of, bluegrass. Togary Mountain. some banjo tunings. Everybody knows G tuning. You know, it's the old bluegrass tuning. I like to use G, but I also like to use G modal sometime. And that means raising that second string a half step to a C note. So this is the tuning. Why do that? For a different sound. I think it's important to try and get as many sounds as you can out of your instrument. And we're going to go to 2 different tunings before we get to Togary Mountain. Just keep in mind that if you already know anything like Cripple Creek, or anything where you're using the 2nd fret and the 5th fret, well, use the 3rd fret and the 5th fret, and the 3rd fret on the 3rd string when you go to this modal tuning. So it's like, I think that's cool. Modal tuning is fun to play in. You'll find songs like Clinch Mountain Backstep, different tunes in that modal tuning. Also called Mountain Minor. Now I'm going to D tuning, which means I'm taking the 2nd string down a whole step. So it compares to the 1st string at the 5th fret instead of the 3rd fret. And the 3rd string goes down a half step. 5th string is going to go up a whole step. I could use a little capo, but I like to do it this way. It's more exciting because it might break. Now, in G tuning, you would be doing Cripple Creek like this. As you may know, I was on the 1st string. In D tuning, you just move everything up towards the ceiling, and all the chords are the same. Where your basic G chord was here, in D it'll be here. All the licks will be moved that way. So I'm going to take a little assumption here that you already know some bluegrass licks and play a little bit in the key of D to give you that idea. Get into it. The basic finger patterns, arpeggio patterns, involved in Togary Mountain are good to know for other songs. Double thumbing is the easiest one, it's the first one. It'll show up here and there in the middle of the song. Sometimes you hit the 4th string instead of the 3rd. That's 3, 2, 5, 1. Or 4, 2, 5, 1. And while you're practicing the basic things, it's good to think of moving your hand, because you change the tone of the instrument, of course, the further you get to. That's the banjo everybody hates. Or, there might be a lot of those. Kind of more overtones up here. So double thumbing is one. And just adding a slide on the 3rd string, 2nd to the 4th fret. Or going only to the 3rd fret. There's a difference, isn't there? And keep in mind that when you slide, like the way Earl Scruggs did a lot, he didn't just execute the slide. But he'd rush them, he'd push them. In other words, it's like, get from here to here faster. It's hard to overdo that, but I mean, so it gives it a little more exciting tone. Another pattern used is the first string lead, middle finger. That's 1, 2, 1, 5 is what I was hitting string wise. Middle index, middle thumb. 1, 2, 1, 5. That's good anytime you want 2 notes out of the 4 to come off the first string. Like you can take simple chords. That was all just 1, 2, 1, 5. Middle index, middle thumb. Another pattern involved predominantly in Togary Mountain puts a lot of lead notes on the 3rd string by doing this. And that's like a forward roll, where you can do it by going thumb, index, middle, thumb, index, middle, thumb, middle. Shows up. Sometimes you can double up on that. Well, that's going to make your wife or neighbor or friend kick you out of the room, so it's sometimes good to mute the string when you practice these patterns. I've stuffed Kleenex in the strings before and played the song. It helps you get through it, because you have to train your right hand to do these patterns and to go back and forth without really thinking about it. And one other pattern that's involved in here is the 2nd string lead arpeggio. And the main way I like to do that is, these are the strings 2, 1, 2, 1, 5, 2, 1. In other words, you'll figure that out. And so it's... Now the reason I did that just then, you can either use your 2 fingers in a row, keeping your thumb only on the 5th string, but it's good to drop your thumb down to the 2nd string. So it's like this. And they say that's because you can hit it harder. And it helps get you swinging a little more. It's hard to keep the index fingers up to tempo. So those are the basic patterns and how they're used in the song. Now the middle finger lead is used in the part of the tune by going. That's the first place it's used, but it actually goes from there doing the same thing here and then here. And then you do these chord positions. So it's this. That's the way that works. One more time. Now we get out of this by doing a lick that goes. Those last 3 notes are a backwards roll, middle, index, thumb, and then the 1st string, So it's so you put these all together. Right here is, it's like taking this. Let's break the A section down from the beginning, piece by piece. The intro. Now this is a double thumbing. Coming. So that's. And then that middle finger on the third string along with the thumb. Do that again. And then you repeat the same thing with a D chord, but you don't need the whole chord, you just play this part of it. So it's, which is very similar to. And then you do this lick, which is, the strings are 5, 3, 2. And then this is a little bit of that double thumbing. Right there. 5, 3, 2. Let's get that one broken down. This is that one little section. 5, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. And the fretting will go from the 5th fret to the 3rd fret on the middle string, the 3rd string. And then double thumbing. 3, 2, 3, 1. So it's. See, that's the magic of the banjo. The easy notes fly by really quick, and it sounds a lot harder, I think, sometimes. When that isn't that, it sounds harder than it is. What I just played was this. Now let's break down the chorus. It's that same pattern, but it's against an F chord, which is just like that G chord down there. And you go. And then you do that. So it's starting off. Now see, that's against a C chord. It's actually playing like a C9 note, but we won't go there. And then you do the double thumbing. And repeat that. And then we go back to C. And right here is the part you need to go from the 3rd string and jump to the 4th. So this is a little lick that goes in here. And it sounds better than just going, if you go. So the bridge, that's one part of it. That's another part. Double thumbing. That's that index middle. And you repeat that. So that's kind of the bridge. Let's cover some basic backup details for Togary Mountain. Backup to play behind when the other guys are playing. You're waiting for your turn, you know. But let's do it easily with just 3 chord positions. This one, the basic tonic G position, that's usually called, and the D position, right there. That's a D, but it's good to use your little finger up there, so you have this one available to do stuff like wave around. Up here it's a G chord. And then one other chord position that really technically isn't a chord, but it's just a position. Right here you put the 1st and 2nd string at the 5th fret, and either the little finger or the next finger to hold that note down on the 3rd string, 7th fret. What that does, with a backward roll, this position gives you, it's like rolling around on a 6 chord version of that. And you can do it here, move this up to C, that's up to D. So here's your G position in a G, here it is as a C, and here it is as a D. Here's your D position as a D, as a G, and if we take it down here, it's an F. If we take the G and move it down here, it's an F. If we take that D position and move it up here, it's a C. Just think white keys on the piano. G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Now there's one little lick that's very handy. And all you're doing there is the thumb on the 3rd string, and then the first 2 strings with those 2 fingers. And then you go, that's the thumb index. And the next note is, that's where that finger's going there, and you slide down. Now you can do that here, starting at the C, and you can do it here at the D. So you can take one thing and know 3 things. You can move back and forth between those chords, and back and forth between these, and between these 2. You know. So the backup on Togary Mountain, keep in mind that it's good to mute sometime. Don't hold the strings down. Don't go. It gets too noisy, you know, so you go. And all that is taking that F position and hammering on right there. And the other thing to know about backup is you can play the into the next chord by sliding from the previous. And also going backwards. So the chords of Togary Mountain go. Let's get it more complicated. Through all the playing the other guys are doing. One more playing trick that works well in Togary Mountain, I described in more detail in the Miner's Night Out video that is also available, is using your fingernail of your left hand to slide on the string, like that, to make the note last longer. Now, if it was a song like Lonesome Road Blues, it would be... You do things like that. On Togary Mountain, it can be in the... Just anywhere you want to do that, where you have any note you want to push. You can get kind of more of an edge off the note by using your fingernail on top of the string. So there. I'll play it through slowly once. A little more up to speed.